Elijah, a name whispered on the wind, a name that speaks of courage, a name that echoes with the power of faith. He walked with kings and yet lived a simple life. Elijah was a prophet of God, called to a destiny larger than himself. He lived in a time of turmoil, a time when people had turned away from faith. They worshipped false idols. Their hearts had grown cold. But Elijah stood firm. He knew there was a better way. He would be the voice to remind them. Elijah's journey was not for the faint of heart. It was a journey of trials and triumphs. He faced down kings and defied evil. Through it all, his faith never wavered. His story, though ancient, still speaks to us today. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope remains. Elijah's early life remains shrouded in mystery. His origins are a puzzle, with only fragments of his story passed down through generations. We know little of his beginnings. The village he came from, the family he belonged to, all remain unknown. But we can imagine a young man deeply spiritual, troubled by the wickedness he saw around him. A young man who felt a calling, a purpose that set him apart from others. A young man chosen by God for a special purpose. A purpose that would demand courage, faith, and unwavering resolve. His first public act was a dramatic one. He stepped into the spotlight with a message that would shake the very foundations of the kingdom. He appeared before the wicked king Ahab. Ahab, known for his tyranny and idolatry, was not a man to be trifled with. His message was clear: there would be a drought that would test the faith and resilience of the people, a drought so severe it would cripple the land. The once fertile fields would turn to dust and the rivers would cease to flow. This was God's punishment for the people's idolatry. Their worship of false gods had brought this calamity upon them. The drought came as promised. The land withered, rivers dried up, people suffered. The once thriving communities were now on the brink of despair. Even in the face of such hardship, Ahab refused to believe. He blamed Elijah. He hunted him. He wanted him silenced. The prophet became a fugitive, constantly on the run. Doubts must have crept into Elijah's mind. Was he alone? Had God abandoned him? The weight of his mission must have felt unbearable at times. But even in his darkest moments, Elijah clung to his faith. He prayed, he hoped, and he believed that his path was divinely guided. He knew God was with him. The signs of divine presence were subtle but undeniable. He had to be strong. He had to persevere for the sake of his people and for the fulfillment of his divine mission. The drought dragged on 3 long years and the people suffered. But Ahab remained defiant. He refused to acknowledge the true God. He clung to his false idols. Elijah knew the time had come for a showdown. He challenged the prophets of Baal to a contest on Mount Carmel. Hundreds gathered to witness the event. The atmosphere crackled with tension. Elijah's challenge was simple yet profound. Each side would build an altar. Each would call upon their God to send fire from heaven. The God who answered with fire would be declared the one true God. The tension in the air was palpable. The prophets of Baal went first. They danced, they chanted, they cut themselves, but there was no answer. Their God remained silent. Then it was Elijah's turn. He approached his altar with quiet confidence. He prayed to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. A hush fell over the crowd. The air was thick with tension and anticipation, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath. All eyes were on Elijah. His presence commanded attention, and his unwavering faith was palpable. He had challenged the prophets of Baal, a bold move that could only end in triumph or tragedy. He had called upon his God. Now they waited, the silence almost deafening as the seconds ticked by. Time seemed to stand still. And then it happened. Fire fell from heaven. It consumed the altar in a blaze of divine power. It licked at the stones, leaving no doubt about the source of this miraculous event. The power of God was undeniable. The crowd was struck with awe, their faces reflecting a mix of fear and reverence. The people trembled in awe, their hearts pounding with the realization of what they had just witnessed. They fell to their knees, overcome by the sheer magnitude of the divine display. "The Lord, He is God," they proclaimed, their voices rising in unison. "The Lord, He is God," they cried. Elijah had triumphed, his faith vindicated before all. He had proven the power of the one true God, standing victorious and unyielding. He had restored faith to a people lost in darkness, bringing light and hope back into their lives. But his victory was short-lived. The shadow of fear soon crept back into his heart. Jezebel, Ahab's wicked wife, threatened Elijah's life. Fear gripped him, and he fled into the wilderness. He fled into the wilderness, seeking refuge from the relentless pursuit of his enemies. Alone and despairing, Elijah wanted to give up. He had given everything, yet it seemed like it was all for nothing. He had fought for God's people with every ounce of his strength, but it seemed like it was all for nothing. He felt utterly alone, lost in a sea of despair, but God had other plans. A new dawn was about to break. He sent an angel to comfort Elijah, a divine messenger to remind him of his purpose. He reminded him that he was not alone. He was loved. He was needed. Elijah's journey was far from over. Elijah found himself at Mount Horeb, the mountain of God. He sought refuge in a cave. He waited. He listened. And then God spoke, not in the thunder, not in the earthquake, but in a still, small voice, a voice that whispered of hope and renewal. God gave Elijah new instructions. He was to anoint Elisha as his successor. Elisha, a humble farmer, would carry on Elijah's mission. He would be the new voice of God. The passing of the mantle from Elijah to Elisha is a powerful symbol. It reminds us that no one is irreplaceable. God always has a plan. He raises up new leaders. He ensures the continuation of his work. Elijah embraced his new role as mentor. He guided Elisha. He shared his wisdom. He prepared him for the challenges ahead. He knew his time was coming to an end, but he was at peace. His legacy was in good hands. Elijah's story does not end with a quiet passing. True to his dramatic life, he ascended to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha watched as his master was taken up in a chariot of fire. The sky blazed with light. The earth trembled. It was a moment of both sorrow and awe. Elijah's sudden departure left a void, but he also left behind a legacy of unwavering faith. He showed the world the power of one man standing up for what is right. He reminded us that God is real, He is present, He is active in our lives. Elijah's story is a beacon of hope. It inspires us to live lives of purpose and courage. He showed us that even in the face of adversity, we can remain true to our beliefs. We can make a difference. We can leave the world a better place than we found it. Elijah's journey was not an easy one. He faced doubts. He experienced despair. He knew fear. His path was fraught with obstacles that seemed insurmountable. Yet he continued to move forward, driven by a purpose greater than himself. But he never gave up. Each step he took was a testament to his resilience and determination. He pushed through the pain, the uncertainty, and the overwhelming odds. He clung to his faith. In moments of solitude and silence, he found strength in his beliefs. His faith was his anchor, grounding him when the storms of life threatened to sweep him away. He trusted in God's plan. Even when the path was unclear, he believed that there was a purpose to his journey. This trust gave him the courage to face each new challenge with hope and determination. And in the end, he triumphed. His victory was not just a personal achievement, but a testament to the power of perseverance and faith. His story teaches us the importance of perseverance. It reminds us that even in the face of adversity, we can find a way to grow and thrive. Life is full of challenges. The storms we face can be daunting, and the path ahead can seem uncertain. There will be times when we want to give up, moments when the weight of our struggles feels too heavy to bear. But it is in those moments that we need to dig deep. We must find the inner strength to keep moving forward, no matter how difficult the journey may seem. We need to draw strength from our faith. Our beliefs can provide us with the courage and resilience we need to face life's challenges. We need to remember that we are not alone. There are others who share our journey, and together we can support and uplift each other. Elijah's life also reminds us of the power of faith. It shows us that faith is not just a passive belief, but an active force that can guide and sustain us. Faith is not simply believing in something. It is about living our lives in a way that reflects that belief. It is about taking action and making choices that align with our values. It is about living our lives in a way that reflects that belief. It is about standing up for what we know is right, even when it is difficult. It is about standing up for what we know is right, even when it is difficult. It is about having the courage to speak out and take action, even when it is not the easy path. It is about trusting that God is with us every step of the way. Knowing that we are guided and supported gives us the strength to face any challenge. Elijah's journey, though thousands of years old, still speaks to us today. It is a timeless story that resonates with the struggles and triumphs we experience in our own lives. It is a story of courage, faith, and the enduring power of the human spirit. It reminds us that we are capable of overcoming even the greatest challenges. It is a story that reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope remains. Hope is the light that guides us through the storm, and that even the smallest voice can make a difference. Each of us has the power to bring about change, no matter how small our actions may seem.